Well, hello everybody, and welcome to today's angles. Not to be confused with angels. We're not little guys with wings that, sing with halos, hallelujahs, or anything. Angles, A-N-G-L-E-S. Okay. Before we get into angles, I want to review just one thing real quick. Do you remember what that is called? We got an endpoint on one side and the arrow indicating that it goes on forever the other direction. What was that called? You remember? It's called a ray. So an angle then is formed when you have one endpoint. We'll draw one. Ooh, I need a bigger endpoint than that. One endpoint, and then connected to that one endpoint, there is not only one ray, but two. So I have now formed an angle. Now, when we talk about angles, we are talking about this space right in here. This is the angle. Now, we measure angles in units called degrees. So that's D, E, G, R, E. Yes, that is the most awesome R you've ever seen. Bah, we'll go back to it. D, E, G, R, E, E, S. Degrees. Now, if I've got an angle, let's just say 45 degrees, the symbol for degrees is generally just a little circle right up top there. If you've studied science at all, temperature, you'll know that that little circle there means degrees for that as well. This is a different kind of degree. Now, when I'm talking about a degree, what do I mean? So I'm going to bring us to this circle here. This circle has what we call, I'm going to move that back to where it was. That was a better spot for it anyways. Has what we call 360 degrees. So if I take that one ray and my line for that one ray, or my angle for that one ray is the whole way around, that would be 360 degrees. Now let's have a little bit of fun. Okay, I'm gonna make myself big here in the middle, and then I'm gonna take my headphones off. Hopefully you can hear me. So if I'm facing this way, and then I turn a quarter turn, I'm now sideways. Okay, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do all three of these now so you know what I'm talking about. That would be a half turn. That would be a three-quarter turn. All the way around is a full turn. So if I were a ballerina spinning circles, I'm going to be making complete turns. All right. Now, all silliness aside, throw myself back down into the corner down there. All silliness aside, we are talking about 1/4 turns. So it's the idea then that I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it for 1/4 of the circle. So if the whole circle is 360 degrees, a quarter turn is going to be equal to what? What is 1/4 of 360? Or another way to say that is, what is 360 divided by 4? Break that down a little bit. We know that 36 divided by 4. So 4 times what is 36? Well, 4 times 9 is 36. So I've just got to add that 0 onto the end. A quarter turn would then be 90 degrees. So if I take that a half turn, so a 1/2 turn, I'm simply adding on to that another 90 degrees, another quarter, because 1/4 and 1/4, 2/4 is 1/2. So what is 90 times 2, or 90 plus 90, or 360 divided by 2? All three of those are going to get 180. 9 plus 9 is 18, so 90 plus 90 is 180. So our final one then was the 3/4 turn. So we've now turned 3/4 of the way around our circle. We're just going to, again, add that other fourth. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. 90 plus 90 plus 90. 90, 180, 270. So a 3/4 turn is 270 degrees. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this idea then. And just to give you that idea there, the 90, 180. So we have, a go about when we're talking about the measurement of angles. This bad boy right here. If you picked up your stuff, you should have this. It's called a protractor. Okay, a protractor is the tool that we use to measure angles. I'm going to point out a few things to you. You'll notice that we have, ooh, that's huge. Ooh. We have two different rows of numbers. Starts at 0 on this side, one starts at 0 on that side. That's just for ease of measuring. Now, what you want to make sure of is that you read the right number. I'll help you understand which number is the right number here in just a second. So I'm going to delete those. The other thing that's important for us to pay attention to on this just comes right here. This little spot right here is where you're going to put your endpoint for those two rays. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that little line, and then I'm going to move this over here. Now, I'm going to put that spot right under the endpoint, okay? But there's a problem with the way this is sitting, because right now, you'll see it's looking at like 140 or so. However, I need to make sure that one of my lines, okay, lines up with this bottom line. Okay, so I can't have it like this. I can't have it like this. I need to make sure that one of those lines lines up exactly with the bottom of the protractor. Okay, then I can look up here and see that. Now, again, I'm going to start at 0. So you want to look at the side that's 0, and then you're going to measure out from there. So I want to be reading the top number, not the bottom number. So this isn't, 75 degrees. I want to be reading, because I started at 0 on the outside, I want to be reading the outside number there, which looks like 104 degrees. So again, line up that bottom and then measure from the 0 out. So let's take a look at another one. Bring my protractor over here. Okay, what am I doing wrong right now? Right. Make sure that your protractor is angled so that that bottom line goes there. Bottom line's along there. What's 0? Is it the inside one or the outside one? Count from the 0 out. This one appears to be about 74 degrees. Another one here. You want that dot, the endpoint there, to be right on that cross there at the bottom, and then it measures out. This one appears to be about 45 degrees. Okay, we've got one last one that we're going to measure. Where do I put it? Do I put it over here? Do I put it up here? Okay, put it where that little cross sits, right in your endpoint there. And then you want to measure from where there's a 0. So I'm not measuring from the 180, I'm measuring from the 0 out and over. And this angle looks to be about 129 degrees. Okay, so the important parts of measuring those angles are putting the protractor right along the bottom and then counting out from the 0 to there. So I don't want to use this 50 because my 0 is on the outside. I want the outside number. Okay, there's one last thing we're going to talk about today, and this is classifying angles. So I'm going to start by doing the same thing. Okay, I'm going to measure my angle. Now, if you look, this angle, let's see, my 0 now is on the inside. From the inside up, it seems to be about, we'll say, 34 degrees. Okay, I'm going to measure all three of these and then get on to classifying the angles. This one, if things were lined up correctly, which it seems to be not. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, all right, there we go. My bottom line goes over, it points straight at the 90 degrees. So the 0 is on the end here. So I'm going to count up from the 0 to the outside one, which is 90 degrees. Okay. And then we're going to measure this little guy over here. Clink. I need to rotate my protractor a little bit and make sure that cross is right on the dot. And we will see we're measuring from the 0 out. This one's about 132 degrees. We'll call this one 132 degrees. Okay, now one of these angles that you should already be kind of familiar with because of defining squares and rectangles is this one right here in the middle. You should be familiar with that 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees is what the corners are for a square and rectangle. So it is a perfect corner there, that 90 degrees. It will usually be signified by this little box in the corner. If it's supposed to be 90 degrees, they will usually have that drawn there. Now this is what we call, does anyone remember? This is what we call a right angle. 34 degrees and 132 degrees. Now you'll notice that 34 is less than 90. So if I have an angle that's smaller than 90, it's like a cute and itty bitty little baby. Okay, and I just said the word. Okay, anything smaller than 90, it's just so cute. Okay, so you can think about it like that. Anything that's small is going to be cute. It's what we refer to as an acute angle. And then finally our 132 there, so I've got room to write. I'm just going to kind of move myself here. Okay, 132 degrees. Oh man, that is just so obtuse. How could you think the angle was going to be that big? Okay, so that's what we call an obtuse angle. Smaller than 90 is acute. 90 degrees is right. Larger than 90 is obtuse. So let's just wrap this up and review. Angles are what are formed by two rays. So if we go here, 1, 2, I just formed an angle. We had circles that we talked about, circles being 360 degrees. We also kind of talked about the turns, quarter turn being 90 degrees, half turn being 180 degrees, three-quarter turn being 270. Protractor was our tool that was used to measure angles. Acute angles are the cute little ones that are smaller than 90 degrees. So something like that would be an acute angle. Obtuse is going to be something that's bigger. So something like that would be obtuse. And then a right angle is when it forms that perfect corner, and it will usually be signified by a box there. If you've got any questions, rewatch the video or reach out to me. Otherwise, go ahead and head on to the practice.